Kyle Austin with Scott Decamp at Spartan Stadium. Michigan State just beat Furman 28-13 to open its season. Scott, they got the win. Wasn't as big as some of these FCS games that we've seen in the past, but they all count one, as Mark D'Antonio reminded us right off the bat tonight.
Right, this wouldn't be the first time that we've seen this from Michigan State team. In fact, in 2013, how many games did we see there where they opened and a little sloppy, a little ugly, not what the fans want, but the team is they've got different things they're looking at, and one of the things that you look at tonight was the penalties. They've got the bye week coming up, and then they go into South Bend to take on Notre Dame, and they've got the penalties, 10 penalties for like 120 yards. I mean, what was that a product of, do you think?
I think it was partially younger guys. You say that, but then you see Josiah Price get a couple big penalties. He's one of the most experienced guys they got. I guess it's maybe jitters, the fact they haven't been out there for a while. Partially maybe some inexperience in there. Raekwon Williams had one. He's a newer guy. He got out there, but it's something we haven't seen. It's probably the most surprising thing from tonight out of everything. That they've had young guys in the past, but this is something they emphasize in this program. Play without mistakes. Don't beat yourself. And that's what, against a better team, that definitely kills you. It wasn't just the total, but there were so many times it seemed like they get a first down and it would come way back 15 yards, or they'd give up a first down when they could have had a 3 and out. They were a lot of big penalties, and they came, I thought, at key times. So that's kind of, the number is big enough, but I think that kind of exacerbated it even then.
Yeah, one of the bright spots I thought tonight was L.J. Scott, the sophomore, 6'1", 230, and he's got a little bit of Le'Veon Bell in him, I think, too, even being at that size. And, he had a couple just outstanding runs. One on that opening drive where he broke through tackles and finished with, 105 yards and 20 carries. And you talked to him after the game. What's his message and his determination going into the season?
Well, Mark D'Antonio, if you remember back to Media Day, said this is going to be a 3-horse race again. That's what they had last year. So that was kind of everyone's mindset going in, but LJ, we talked to him afterwards, he said apparently Dave Warner came to the running backs beforehand and said, hey, we're going to go with 2 guys, LJ's the number 1, Madre Lund's number 2, which they never did at any point last year. It was always everybody's at equal footing. So you saw that in the carries tonight. LJ Scott got 20 carries. I believe that's more than he ever got last year, and he looked like a lead back. I didn't think we would see a lead back tonight because Mark D'Antonio had kind of insinuated that we wouldn't, but they gave him the carries of a lead back. He looked like it. He was breaking tackles. He got 100 yards. Slower sometimes after that quick start, but I think Michigan State's overall happy, and I don't think we're going to go through the season, having 3 different guys all kind of going in and out. And the other thing that LJ said that was interesting is he was frustrated last year. He'd get in for a series, he'd start feeling good, and then he'd get pulled out. He'd spend 25 minutes on the sideline, he'd get cold, then he'd have to go back in cold. I think we all suspected that was not an ideal situation for those guys, but he came out tonight and was pretty adamant that I want to be the number 1 back. I do better when I get rhythm, which is what we saw him do tonight. And I think we're going to see that going forward. I think he could be a 1,000-yard guy. I think he's going to get 78% or so of the carries. We didn't see Gerald Holmes at all. He was not injured. He just didn't get in the game. So that was a departure from what we've seen.
Yeah, that kind of speaks to the running back depth. But I know it's only 1 game, but it looked like it's kind of starting to settle itself out already. Right. Long season, though. Another bright spot tonight I thought was Tyler O'Connor, the 5th-year senior, who's kind of bided his time, waited his turn, and he had that pinch hit start, huge win at Ohio State last year, but this is kind of his team now, and it seemed a little early. There were a couple times where he might have showed a little nervousness, but I thought he worked through it well, finished with a really solid stat line, 13 for 18, 190 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and you having seen him last year at different times and through camp, what do you see in him?
I think this is, I don't want to say the best you could expect. He made some mistakes, but you should certainly be happy with this from Tyler O'Connor. For a first effort, I thought he forced one early that could have been picked. I thought on his picks he kind of stared down Josiah Price there and gave that cornerback a chance to kind of read his route and step in there. So there were a couple of mistakes, but for the most part, I thought his throws were on the money. I thought he made his reads well. He was willing to tuck it down and run, which is what he said, and I think he backed that up tonight. He didn't have any huge runs, but he was willing to do that. He made some throws on the run. I think overall it was a strong night. He was not spectacular. He didn't go out there and look like Connor Cook. I don't think he threaded anything in there or threw some absolute darts, but he was solid. He didn't make a whole lot of mistakes, and I think that's the type of performance that with L.J. Scott, I think that can win you games. I think that's serviceable, which maybe doesn't sound great for him, but that's what it is. It's good enough to win it. I don't think it's a problem at this point. Is what I'm saying.
And I think, how much do you think we learned tonight, really, facing, with Michigan State facing an FCS opponent, which kind of a mid to lower level FCS opponent at that. Now they're going, have the week off, and they go into South Bend to face Notre Dame, which is ranked 10th. Michigan State entered ranked 12th, and actually 2013, the last time last time they played Notre Dame was that was a game they lost 17-13 in a penalty marred game, and that proved to be the only loss of the season in the Rose Bowl championship season. So, having said all that, what are your thoughts going into that game, what they need to clean up and so forth?
This wasn't a team to me tonight that looked ready to go in and win at Notre Dame. Having said that, we haven't seen Notre Dame yet this year. We haven't seen anybody, and I am a guy I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock in the preseason until I see a team go out there and play. And Notre Dame's got a big test at Texas. But if the Notre Dame is what we think Notre Dame is going to be, I don't think they're there yet. But you know what? They clean those penalties up. I think this could be a totally different game. Tyler O'Connor thinks that they took three touchdowns off the board with penalties. And I'm not. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but really, you could play some what ifs in this game and think if they can get things cleaned up, that they can play a little bit more disciplined, they could look a lot better. I think the offensive line, which is one of my biggest questions, I thought they were pretty good. They're okay. They weren't playing against guys like they'd be playing against Notre Dame, but I think that was a good enough transition. I thought their secondary, was kind of shaky. My biggest thing is if you're going to make these mistakes here, what happens when you go to Notre Dame for a lot of these young guys? That's a lot tougher environment. That's on the road. That's a much bigger crowd. So I'm not ready to say that they could win there yet, but we haven't seen Notre Dame play, and they get a week off. If they can really drill it into these guys to play mistake-free football, I think we saw enough positives that if they can take away the negatives, it's certainly possible. Well, I'll do it for Spartan Stadium. For Scott Decamp, Kyle Austin, we will be in South Bend in 2 weeks, and we'll check in with you there. Until then, stay with MLive.com/Spartans.